Welcome back, Superboy Beyond fans. This is your Superboy fact checker, Chris Jacobsen. With me, as always, is our ever-present host, Tom Gallagher. Hey, Tom.
Hey, Chris.
So we're going back to season 1 for our commentaries today. We're going to start with Terror from the Blue today.
Indeed. Which is an episode I was sure that we'd done before, but I guess not.
Yeah, one that I have not seen in a while. It has a great guest star. Good, interesting premise, but we'll get into that as the episode goes on.
Yeah, I seem to remember this being one of the ones that concept is slightly better than the execution, but I don't remember it being a bad episode. I just remember it not being one of the good ones, really.
Yep. And it's also, because it's a police episode, it is a Lieutenant Harris episode.
Always good to see Harris.
Yes. So just so you guys know, again, we're not going to have any bits of the episode in the video. There's going to be a very heavily filtered version right up there, just so you can keep in track with us. That is no way a replacement for the episode. So I'm going to count you in with a 3, 2, 1 play. Or in this case, it's a police episode, a 3, 2, 1 bang.
Okay. 3, 2, 1, get on the ground, motherfucker.
Okay, Samuel L. Jackson. All right, so get your DVDs or your streaming versions ready, and 3, 2, 1, bang!
Surprise, motherfucker.
So, obviously, this is, as you said, it's an episode that's got some good guest stars in it. You know how terrible I am at pronouncing names. I'm hoping I will get it right. Cary-Hiroyuki Tagawa. I'm hoping Tagawa. Like, you know this guy. As soon as you see this guy's face, you know him. He's done so much work, and he's still working.
Yep.
Yeah, it's just pretty cool to have him in an episode. It's a bit of a shame it's not a slightly better one, but oh well. What a shame they didn't bring him back as a different character, because they did it often enough on this show.
The lighting in the police station here is very atmospheric.
Yeah, I seem to remember this whole episode having a very blue colour grading to it. I guess they took the title of this one very seriously, very literally. Yeah. But I don't know. I like it about this episode. I think it gives it its own sort of identity. You can tell immediately which episode this is, because it's literally the only one that's got a blue tint across almost the entire thing.
Yeah, and it kind of gives a glow to Stacy's blue eyes.
I mean, Stacey's eyes seem to glow in every episode. I'm sure in the first season they were enhancing the blueness of her eyes somehow. Because I mean, you mentioned it when we did the Alien Solution commentary not too long ago, that her eyes looked like they'd been saturated slightly more in post. Wouldn't surprise me. These days, the only show doing that is that terrible Rob Schneider sitcom. God knows why. It's just that obsessed with the colour of his own eyes, I suppose.
Okay. I get that Harris wants to give the guy a chance because he's a corrupt cop and not go to internal affairs. But this is really stupid. Meeting in a dark alley.
Yeah, you want to meet somewhere with witnesses, surely. But, witnesses close enough by that they can see you're having a conversation, but not close enough to hear what you're talking about. Like, surely.
Yeah.
Couldn't they go into, there must be like a room inside the police station where they can do this. Even if it's just the
Yeah,
break room, you know.
yeah, and this is before the advent of cameras in all the police station rooms.
Yeah, it would have been absolutely private, you know. Hell, do it in the interrogation room. Just don't have anybody in the other room watching.
Yeah.
Still not going to do anything in a station, are they? I don't know. Maybe it's just he wants to give the guy the benefit of the doubt. Maybe he thinks he's not a bad dude. Really, he's just made some mistakes. Clearly, he doesn't know who he's dealing with. And that is, I always forget how brutal that moment is. Like the shots are visible on the other side of his shirt. Like,
Yeah.
it's pretty.
Thankfully, he missed his heart on all of them.
He certainly came close. Let's face it. You see where those shots are, the holes in his shirt. Yeah, the entire thing's just got this really cool sort of blue tint over it. Although, actually, it seems to have gone now. That's weird. I guess they forgot about it. Fucking better be. You don't kill Harris.
The only problem is that there's no blood.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe they didn't know how much they could get away with in the first season. They certainly didn't care by season 2 with the Metallo episode, as that we always point to as the most bloody Superboy ever got.
Yeah.
I don't remember ever having a scene with more blood than that, that's for sure. Although, actually, how much blood was on Luther when he got shot in Roads Not Taken Part 2?
None.
None. I always remember him having blood on his hands and stuff in that scene for some reason. I guess the power of his acting makes me think it was slightly more gritty than it was. That would be one I'll look forward to doing a commentary on again.
Mm. She's definitely selling the terror here.
Absolutely.
And
I like that they're almost shooting it like a slasher film, like she's running away from, the murderous psychopath that's trying to kill her. Like,
which technically she is.
I mean, basically, yeah, but Stacey's playing it like almost like she's in a horror film. Like, it's almost a shame that the lighting of the scene doesn't match. Maybe this scene was a little bit later in the day, so it was a bit darker. Obviously, that's not the end of the world.
But, looking at the way Tagawa is playing this, he's really definitely playing, a total scumbag. And just the way he's looking, just his eyes, his stance,
He's
you could even
one
tell
of the
it when
best.
he was having he was even kind of doing it when he was having that conversation with Harris at the beginning.
I mean, he is one of the best at playing sort of slightly villainous characters, It's a shame that the episode of Stargate SG-1 that he's in isn't a slightly better episode, because I would have quite liked to have seen him play a recurring role, but I don't think anybody wanted that episode to come back particularly because it just wasn't particularly good.
Right.
If you know the episode, you know the episode. Like, some cool ideas, but yeah. I mean, first thing I would have done is go to a clothes store, maybe look for a wig or a hat, something. Lana's pretty recognisable from a distance with her red hair.
Yeah. Even a hoodie would have helped.
Yeah. baseball cap and sunglasses. Go the Marvel route. Just something. I think he's very good in that scene. He's playing the concerned colleague role for the cop down the radio, like, pretty well. You'd have to hope that Harris is. I mean, obviously we know Harris is going to pull through, but yeah, just it makes you hate him more because he's laying it on so thick. Like, at least he's got a chance and all of this stuff. It's just like, you son of a bitch. I can't wait for Superboy to catch you.
Kick your ass.
Yeah. This episode is better than I remember it so far. But I don't remember how well they stuck the landing with the ending. At some point, I'm going to have to go through season 1 and just know all the different versions of Andy and TJ's dorm room. Because, I mean, again, it's the brown walls.
You said Andy and TJ.
Did I say Andy and TJ? Did I say... I said Andy and TJ. Oh, for God's sake. Last week, I kept calling Andy TJ, and now I'm forgetting Clark is even part of it. Like, it's just those two having a sitcom together.
Yeah.
Although, actually, that would be a pretty fun episode. A team up between those two characters. I think TJ and Andy would be friends. I know I'm going a bit off topic now, but...
And now she finally gets in touch with them.
Wow.
Oh, good thing that Lana dropped her wallet. Otherwise, that homeless woman would have gotten killed.
Yeah. But that moment does show, I suppose, that the disguise wouldn't have worked because the homeless woman looked nothing like Lana, was wearing a hat and everything, So what I said earlier, it wouldn't have mattered. I don't think the power of the press quite works that way, but you do you, Clark.
Well, remember, he's only doing that excuse so he can do that.
See, it's been so long since I've seen this episode, I forgot what was going on with that red truck just then. I thought Lana was going to be hiding in the back of it or something.
Right.
It's been so long. And I guess the blue filter didn't go over the whole episode, just the intro for some reason. Still, it looked cool while it lasted.
So now we're on to corrupt cop number 4. How many people are under Slade's payroll?
I mean, it is the 80s. Let's face it. I suppose it is the 80s and it is Florida. They're pretty close to Miami. Probably quite a few corrupt cops. Let's face it, there's probably still too many of them today.
I will say this, the fact that it's a cop that's in the bed means that any one of the corrupt cops can come in and nobody will think twice.
Yeah.
And then he just suddenly drops dead. Yeah.
Like, yeah, it's all very well Superboy asking, like, are there any cops you can trust? But, it's clear that this department is pretty damn corrupt. So I don't think there's quite as many you can trust as you might think. So,
yeah. Although it's not as bad as Gotham.
I mean, let's face it, yeah, Gotham is always going to be worse. Gotham in the 80s, especially, I imagine. It's I must say it's good of the guy to actually make sure that Lana's okay, but I mean, might have been better to take her to a hospital, even though it's likely not safe since Harris is at the hospital and he's still getting attempts on his life. But
yeah,
still, it's a good thing that the guy, didn't just do a hit and run, just panic and drive away. She would have just been left there helpless in the street.
That's what would happen now.
It's probably what
back in the 80s
as well.
Yeah, well, back in the 80s, people were a little bit more conscientious.
A lot less security cameras, though, so probably still plenty of people that were just figuring, well, nobody will ever know it was me.
Right.
A little bit easier to get away with stuff back then, I'm sure.
Yeah, I think the only security cameras that were around were inside buildings and maybe at the ATMs.
Yeah. Tell you what, the police listening in have got to be panicking a little bit now that they know the guy in the room is Superboy.
Yeah.
Wait, Superboy's on this? Oh shit!
How did they sneak into the dorm room and put in the bug without anyone noticing?
I don't know. There's an awful lot of quite old-looking students at Schuster, as we've seen in previous episodes. Although sometimes I guess they're just posing as students, but nobody ever seems to stop them. I guess they just walked in. And I guess, they are cops. They could just walk in, I suppose, as long as they pretend like they're supposed to be there. Who's really going to stop them? Great use of heat vision there, I've got to say.
Yeah, except wouldn't it have been better to just melt it along the center seam between the doors?
Probably, but I mean... Plus, I'm sure they could probably climb out over the front and come out like the front, like the driver's door or something. Most vans like
Yeah, and
that
then
you can climb through.
there's the sliding glass door on the side. Well, the sliding door on the side.
Yeah. Oh well. I know we said a little while ago, I can't remember which episode it was, but we did say that we need to start running a tally of how many times a junkyard is featured in Superboy. Do you think this technically counts? It's kind of a junkyard.
Technically, yeah.
It's obviously not the same junkyard, unless they just gained a load more crap over the years. Maybe it's just a very big junkyard that they use, and they just film in different parts of it all the time. It's probably the same one that Abe Vigoda was living in and all of that.
I think he's hamming it up a little too much here.
Maybe a little bit. Not a bad effect, that, actually, on the blowtorch going on in Superboy's chest and not burning anything. I do wonder how they did that. Maybe it was just a digital effect, but they seem to have matched the movement very well.
Yeah.
Which wasn't always the case, you know, even in this very episode when Superboy was doing heat vision, like, it wasn't perfectly synced up with his movements. Maybe we need to add Oscar to the tally, like, you know, just our list of one-off characters that are really awesome in a small way.
Yeah.
We'll put him alongside the old lady from People versus Metallo. Just good people that just show up in episodes never to be seen again. But I'm not sure even what you could have done with him again, unless there was just something at the junkyard again. But then that would have just been like a repeat of the Abe Vigoda episode. So
yeah,
there's only so many times you can return to the junkyard. I like that ending. It's a shame, really, that ending wasn't expanded on as the show went on. You know,
yeah,
they seemed in season 1 to be setting up more and more like the Lana and Clark relationship starting out and all of that. But then it just kind of stalls in season 2 and then never really gets back again. I guess at a certain point they just decided that Lana likes Superboy and not Clark. But in that scene, it does definitely seem like Lana is definitely into Clark.
Yeah, and remember, this was around the time when Stacy and John were dating.
Yeah, which probably helped with the chemistry. Although, let's face it, it doesn't always work. There's plenty of films like... Let's face it, you know, Ben Affleck and Jennifer Lopez have done enough movies together while they were actually together, and I don't think any of them were any good. Like, 2 of them are pretty famously, shockingly bad. Although I do think like Jersey Girl has its moments.
Yeah.
Apparently they're making a new film with those 2 now as well. I don't know who asked for that. Like,
I didn't.
Yeah. I don't know. Really getting off topic now. Anyway, Terror from the Blue or Terror of the Blue? I forget what it was.
Terror from the Blue.
Terror from the Blue. You know, not a terrible episode. It's obviously it's kind of they're chasing Lana down. It's kind of Lana's on the run from corrupt cops, which is probably the most interesting part of the story. But I don't know. I just think it's wrapped up a little bit too quick.
Yeah. I don't know. You know, there are certain great things about it. I mean, obviously, you know, Roger Preto as Lieutenant Harris, great as always.
Always, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, even that little comedic scene at the end when TJ sneaks in the hot dog for him because he doesn't want to eat the hospital food. I can see why. Um, that's great. He's great as always. Cary-Hiroyuki Tagawa, of all the guest stars that we've had, from season 1 up through season 4, he's probably one of the best.
Yeah,
You
I
know,
agree.
He has a habit in all the things that he plays of playing the bad guy. And he's made it his career of being the typical bad guy, and he does a great job on that. So, any points that I would give to this episode would probably be from the premise and the performances of those two.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I don't think the writing is terrible. I just, when I say that I feel like it wraps up a bit too quickly, it's partly just that I guess I just want to see more of that character.
Yeah.
It's almost a shame that it wasn't slightly more serialized, because the whole thing of like a load of corrupt cops at the station, like that could have been like quite an interesting season long arc. Like Superboy and Harris work together quite a bit. Maybe Harris clues Superboy in that there's a situation. It's a little bit more complicated than he's typically used to. But if he will work
Right.
with him, he knows they can take him down together eventually. Like that could have been an interesting story arc for the first season. But as it is, it's just the one episode. And I'm mostly only saying that because, let's face it, Superboy has a lot of like organized crime or gangsters or whatever in this show. Like especially in the first couple of seasons, there's a lot less supernatural threat going on. It's a lot of organized crime, a lot of corruption, that sort of thing. So I think it would.
When you look at season 1, okay, it's very akin to the old George Reeves Adventures of Superman, because remember, George Reeves, there was very few, out there, we'll call it, foes. There was just basically gangsters, organized crime, crime bosses. As Jerry Seinfeld likes to put it, there's always the boss and then Lefty. So who's the boss? The boss of Lefty? There's really not much. So it's very akin to that. There's a lot of gangsters.
I just think if
here and there's a few other things.
No, I was just thinking, with all of the organized crime and stuff like that is playing such a big part in season 1, and obviously did in George Reeves, as you say, having the police element with Harris and having this ongoing story arc, and maybe you could have said like all of these things are connected. Maybe this is why there's so much organized crime, because the police are so corrupt at the moment that organized crime is thriving in Florida at this point. So that could have been an interesting thing, and they could have just tied all the little stories together instead of just having like 10 different gangster episodes that don't connect in any way. You could have had this that just connects them, and you would have had just a tiny, like maybe 1 or 2 extra lines of dialogue, and it would have been, you could have connected it all, and it would have felt slightly less like Florida is just Mad Max of America. It's almost turned into an apocalypse with organized crime. It's just
Yeah, I mean, if you look at it, remember the Salkinds were not, they weren't big on television. They didn't know, create stuff like this. They were this was their first TV show ever, and
it's the
I
only
think it was
reason
also
they were
their
able.
last.
Yeah, I think it might have been, but I mean, it's funny as well because the only reason they were really allowed to make Superboy at this time was because it was their first show ever. There was a writer's strike going on, and the only reason they were allowed to do it is because I think they had to hire 2 brand new writers that hadn't had a writing credit before. And Mike Carlin was one, and there was another one who I'm forgetting at the moment.
Andy Helfer.
Andy Helfer as well, and
and also remember because they weren't because this was their first gig in TV business. The strike didn't apply to them because the guild was not pissed at them.
Yeah. I mean, I'm going to have to upload at some point. There's like a 9-minute segment from an old interview I did with Mike Carlin where he does talk about this. And he literally says, we're just you've not done anything to piss us off yet, so yeah, you can make the show, but these are the conditions, and the Salkinds met those conditions, so the show went ahead. Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if quite a few new shows actually did get started during the most recent writers' strike, but I'm sure the Writers Guild weren't too happy about stuff like that. I don't think deals like that really happen these days. I think it's all gotten a bit too complicated these days for stuff like that to work, which is maybe a bit of a shame, but at the same time, the writers and the actors and all the people behind the scenes, they deserve to be paid fairly for their time, so can't exactly be mad at it, you know. I might be sad that Star Trek Strange New World Season 3 has been delayed, but that's mostly just because they chose to end 2 on a cliffhanger, you know. The fact it was delayed wasn't really their problem or their fault. So it's just what's happened, you know. Really getting off topic now. But Terror from the Blue. I don't know really what I would even score this episode. I mean, it's got pretty good guest star.
I would probably give it like a 6.5 at the most.
I don't know. I was leaning closer to a 7. I do think I like this episode quite a bit. I think it's got a lot of good stuff in it. I don't think I could go any higher than a 7. Like a 7, the 7 is the absolute peak. So maybe we'll have to meet in the middle and call it 6.75 again.
Okay.
I think that's pretty much fair. I think, you know, it's one of those, it's just another of those episodes in season 1 that has just a fantastic concept and even has the right actors. It has the right actors, it has the right director involved, but for some reason it just didn't quite come together this time. Maybe if it was a 2-parter, it would have worked. But let's face it, we say that about most episodes. Anyway. Thank you all so much for watching. Hope you've enjoyed our commentary. And be sure to tune in again next week where we'll be doing the episode, also from Season 1, War of the Species, which is one that I could have sworn we'd done before, but apparently not. So, tune in again next week and we'll see you then. Good night.